Software development is very similar to Plato's allegory of the cave. In this story, basically, these people are trapped in a cave, and more or less their perception of reality is based on these these shadows, these images that are being cast on the wall of the cave from the outside world that's behind them. They can't get out of the cave. They can't see anything past what they're seeing being cast or shadowed on the wall. And so that becomes their reality because that's all they know. That's all they can visually see. And in software development, it's no different because sometimes your reality, or at least your perception of reality, is always being filtered through the lens of whatever language or framework that you're working with. So sometimes we can be like these people who are trapped in the cave and all we see is C sharp, or all we see is .NET or F sharp, or whatever else it may be, and we never look elsewhere. For whatever reason, we're stuck here and we can't get out there into the real world where we could use Rust, JavaScript, Java, Elixir, something like that. And there's a lot else out there. But for whatever reason, whenever we start to get comfortable, whenever we get that first job, we start to become like these cave dwellers where we lose sight of reality. And I think it's unfortunate, but it's just something that happens. You'll hear it talked about in a similar way of, you know, kind of coding yourself into a corner. But I would really try to read Plato's allegory of the cave and draw parallels between that and software development because I think there's some to be made. And I feel like, obviously it doesn't stop at software development. It goes to life, but something about software development, and it's like once you pick your first language, that just clouds the rest of your thinking and your vision. And to use the software development word, it obfuscates the it, I can't even use that word though. Right? Have you ever noticed in documentation, kind of a tangent, you always pick up on like certain words that show up in software development, and one of them is obfuscate. If you can sneak obfuscate in a sentence, then you know you're a software. I'm kidding. I feel like there's a lot of that. To be honest with you, there's like there's buzzwords, obviously for corporate worlds. There's buzzwords. There's like fancy technical words. There's technical jargon. There's all this stuff out there, that makes it sound so much more complicated than what it needs to be. I'm very anti acronym. I don't like acronyms. Acronyms, in my opinion, make everything harder, make everything unnecessarily complex. I get that there's a time and place, okay? You don't want to write out 3 words, you just want to condense it. You know, pull request, you call it a PR, whatever else you want to call. And object oriented, you have solid principles. But it's like, then you got to memorize what the acronym means. And can't we just, you know what I mean? I just don't like acronyms, especially don't like unnecessary acronyms, to be honest with you. They just create more problems than I think it's worth. It's kind of like when you're driving down the highway. When you drive on the highway in the US, you see a lot of interesting stuff. You really do. I've seen a car on fire. I remember one time I was driving south on a major highway, or sorry, not a highway, an interstate, and I saw a car on fire. Just on fire. Somebody was standing, about 10 feet away looking at their car and just, well, and what do we do now? I saw somebody, this is the craziest one that I've ever seen. I saw somebody up on a hill, way up there on a hill. This is the strangest thing. He was up on a hill, and he was holding a sign, big sign, and nearby he had a tent pitched, but on the sign he had investors needed investors needed. And it was just some random guy on this hill by the side of the interstate in a tent. I mean, it was just the strangest thing. And obviously on the interstate, you get you always you always know you're in for a time when you're driving down and a semi decides to get in the left lane to pass another semi. But if you're in a hilly part of the country in the United States, you know what happens when you go down a hill and there's two semis. The one semi that he's trying to pass all of a sudden starts going a little bit faster, and then you have this like elephant race where these two large machines are now neck and neck, and nobody's passing them, and it backs up traffic way back. And in the left lane, people drive it so close. I mean, they're like this. I mean, if we have any understanding of physics, I mean that energy is only going one place, and your car is going to absorb a little bit, but your body, your neck is going to absorb a whole lot of it. It's not going to be good. Pretty fascinating. If you want to see the human condition or commentaries on human life or existence, go on the U.S. interstate system. You'll see some interesting stuff. Not to mention billboards. You probably will see at least 5 billboards about the end of the world. I just, and then you pass, some select shopping destinations, to say the least, right? Some not so G-rated shopping destinations. You pass some huge gas stations, some truck stops. You pass a whole lot of Subways and Cracker Barrels, and occasionally you'll pass a some kind of fruit stand. It's like somewhere along the way, somebody decided to merge a gas station with a fruit stand, because nothing says fresh fruit like the smell of gasoline. It's very odd. But there's some interesting things on the interstate. You don't have to drive the interstate, you can drive back roads, but the only problem with that is you never know which ones are being worked on, and you never know when they're closed. And you can use, I don't care if you're using maps, any kind of social map, there's always, it seems like, a road closure that's not been marked. And not to mention, when you drive on back roads or side streets, whatever, you got to worry more about the changing speeds. All of a sudden we decide that we're going to go from 60 to a 25 through a light, and then that's when they ticket everybody, because who breaks from 60 to 25? Obviously, it's not 60, but there's some pretty serious drop offs in speeds I've seen, especially if you cross into any small town. You got to slow down to 25, or otherwise you're done for, especially anywhere in the southern part of the United States. Uh, how do we get here? I don't know. This is pretty much my YouTube channel though, but there's some crazy stuff on the interstate system, and there's some crazy stuff in software development. Oh boy, that's all I got for this one.